Good morning, everybody. Hello, and welcome to our webinar today. Lovely to see our presenters and lovely to see you all joining in as we start talking about selling online globally and e-commerce and what that means in today's world, what that means for today's buyers, prospective buyers, and what that means for your marketing and for your web assets, your websites, your online marketing. Just while the last of you are logging on, I'll do some quick introductions. Today, I think probably many of you already know Jonathan Zooks. He's the Mid-Atlantic Representative Chairman for the NADEC, and we're delighted that Jonathan can join us today to talk about NADEC and what NADEC means and how NADEC helps exporters, and also perhaps tell us a little bit about his own company's experience using websites and to expand internationally. Joelle is our online marketing director at IBT Online. She heads up all of our online marketing side and is sitting in the office today. So I've got lots of things going on behind her. And she's going to be talking about online marketing for exporters, driving their business, driving leads to conversion and such. And my name is Susanna Hardy. I'm Chief Content Officer at IBT Online. And I'm really here to help talk about sort of e-commerce, international e-commerce, how that can help you grow your business online with online selling assets. We have a very dense webinar today, so I'm seeing all of you just clicking on now, so I'm just going to continue on introductions for a second then. IBT Online is a company that specializes in online tools, so websites and online marketing for exporters. So IBT stands for International Business and Technologies Online, and that is our core focus. We are also really focused on the sort of the mid-cap world, the small and mid-cap companies who we feel benefit enormously from online tools that are able to harness the online world to really punch above their weight and to reach international markets, and use correctly. There they are on the first page of a search online search, together with the biggest in their business. So used correctly, online tools allow small and mid-cap companies to really grow their businesses. We have also set up a series called the Online Global Programs, and there are lots of states in the U.S. that help sponsor these and have even sometimes some grants that can go to help fund these. These are both for online marketing and building websites internationally. If you want to learn more, please let us know. As I started saying, we have a very sort of full agenda today. We wanted Jonathan to start off by talking a little bit about NADEC and about what NADEC does to help exporters, and also some of his things, and then to talk a little bit about why we feel U.S. exporters can particularly benefit from online business tools. Why are websites even more important for an exporter than they are for someone who's established in their domestic market? What about e-commerce? How does e-commerce play into it? What are the key must-haves and must-do for successful e-commerce? And then the marketing must-haves. These are things that are very much in tandem. You can't have e-commerce today without a marketing strategy. The internet is just too competitive. And then finally, some latest trends, takeaways, next steps, and some time for Q&A. We would really welcome any feedback or questions you might have. Pop them into the chat box, and we have time for that during the presentation. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Jonathan. And again, thank you very much, Jonathan, for your time today. Talk to us a little bit about your experiences and NADEC.
Thank you, Susanna, and thank you, Joelle. Welcome everybody to this webinar on e-commerce. I think you're going to find the content exceptional, and I hope you take a lot away from this. The NADEC, who are we? What do we do? We're 16 members from 8 different regions all across the U.S. We're elected by the 61 local district export councils across the U.S. To represent you, and represent you how? Number one, we represent small and medium exporters. We also represent our local decks in terms of advocacy up on the Hill. Right before I got on this webinar, I was, speaking to Senator Bozeman from Arkansas. So, we're always advocating for how do we gain more market access. And I think e-commerce is a great stepping stone for getting market access. E-commerce allows you to have your store without having a physical presence there. But you need to do it smartly, and glad to be doing this, webinar with our partners and my family, IBT Online, as I call them, my extended family, because we worked so well together, not only on the NADEC, but also in my own business. So in my own business, IBT Online has built our websites domestically and internationally, and we've been very successful because of those websites. So much so that we actually had to have a full-time sales office in Mexico because of the sales and revenue generated from our website there. But what are we talking about today? We're talking about e-commerce, and what does that look like, and how can you benefit as a small exporter in e-commerce? And really, I think Susanna started off best by saying you're right up there with the big guys. You're right up there with the Fortune 50, the Fortune 100 companies. But you have a small platform and you're more nimble and more flexible and able to meet your customers' needs than a lot of those large companies. But you need a good e-commerce platform, and you need good partners to work with. And I can tell you from my own personal experience that IBT Online and their team is excellent to work with. And what I can tell you is that they're really going to handhold you through this e-commerce process. It's not going to be we're going to build something and you're on your own. It's going to be what are we marketing? And Joelle and her team will go through that. What targets are you looking at? Is it geographical? Is it gender specific? Is it age specific? What kind of people do you want to drive to your e-commerce site? And what particular products do you want to push? And are you doing specials? And are you wanting to target certain demographics or certain areas, for specials? Maybe you're going to a trade show and you want to promote your e-commerce website, even though you're going to a trade show, because you want to let your customers know in that area that, hey, I'm going to be there. You can actually see the products in person as well. But e-commerce really is a great stepping stone into markets for small and medium exporters. And I can tell you, the biggest thing that I hope you take away from this is, please do not do this on your own. All too many on these webinars, I tell people the same thing. My message is the same. Make sure that you have good qualified partners to work with. The worst thing that you can do is to try to build an e-commerce website on your own, spend a lot of money, not follow the rules and regulations of the country that you're building the e-commerce website for, and end up in a lot of trouble and losing a lot of money on top of it. So my suggestion to you is partner with somebody just like IBT Online. They and their experts will be able to guide you through this and keep you on the right side of the law, keep you on the right side of the rules and regulations, but most importantly, help you become successful. And that's what e-commerce websites are all about. I mean, let's be honest, since the pandemic, who orders anything pretty much in person anymore? I mean, this morning, my family texted me and they were like, we want pizza. I went online, I ordered pizza. I mean, come on, we're all living in an e-commerce world. We're all ordering stuff, clothes and shoes. And now we're even grocery shopping, Instacart, all these things, where we just show up, somebody takes the groceries, puts them in our car, or sometimes they just deliver it to your house. I mean, the world is full of e-commerce, and this is where we're at, and that's where we're going. But you have to also be very careful, and you also have to be very thoughtful in how you do this. So this webinar and the information you're going to get from IBT, I hope you enjoy it, because you're going to get a lot of information to open up that thought process. And these are the people that know how to handle e-commerce websites, how to link it to your website, how to do the marketing around it. So I really hope you enjoy this webinar, and I will be here for the Q&A. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me, but I want to turn it back over to Susanna and Joelle, because I can tell you, you're really going to enjoy this. E-commerce is a great segment, segued way to get into a market. You can get into a market through e-commerce. You don't always have to be there in person. So Joelle and Susanna, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Jonathan, thank you as always, not only for your endorsement, but for your views, and really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Some of these slides you will, if you've been on any of our webinars, you will have known. So I'm going to whiz through some of these early ones, but we wanted to just pinpoint and put a landscape around some of these big tools, these e-commerce tools that we're talking about. Now, as Jonathan was saying, since the pandemic, especially boosted since the pandemic, we're all online. That's not just all, meaning everybody in the United States. Everybody in the world is online. And we're online for an awfully long time as well. So, and what are we doing online? Well, we're spending most of our time online on social media. We're spending at least half our time on social media, and most of us online are on social media. So the big numbers, we're 8 billion people, we're 5 billion internet users, we're nearly 5 billion social media users. And the amazing thing for me is that we're spending so much of our lives on the internet, nearly 7 hours a day on the internet, of which 2.5 hours on social media. And getting back to that thing we said in the very beginning, e-commerce and tools like your websites, online marketing, allow small and mid-cap companies to reach out and reach right into the homes and the businesses of the world through the internet, through online marketing. You can be on the front page, on the first page of any search engine if you do it correctly. And just some of those long-term trends, and quite a bit of what we're talking about today, it also has some sort of the latest trends and some of the very long-term trends that we're seeing, especially in international e-commerce. Some of those long-term trends that really got a big boost in the pandemic are back on to sort of normal growth trends, but they've really stepped up, and the views on them have changed. So even if you're back in the office, the company's view on working from home or working from the office has probably changed. Same thing with e-commerce, not just B2C, but B2B e-commerce has changed, and very, very remarkably so. As I said, it got this. The pandemic obviously made this huge boost. We saw the number of e-commerce transactions increase by 5-fold in some countries. In most countries, it doubled. It's now gone back to more normal growth rates of sort of between 5% sort of growth rates per annum. Still very strong growth rates, 5%. But it's just at a totally different level. It's just boosted up there now. And I wanted just to leave you with this slide as well. The red arrow shows the USA. Okay, so I just really wanted to highlight and really emphasize how much of the world is doing e-commerce. That e-commerce is the norm in the Philippines, in Saudi Arabia. That the Thais seem to spend more time online than in a shop anyway, by a long way. If you want to go to South Korea, e-commerce is an absolute must. So I just wanted to sort of highlight this graph with all these numbers on it, showing it is an absolutely global phenomenon. And the US is by far not, it's actually slightly below the global average. The white line, the white bar is the global average at 57.6, and the US is just below that. So this is, e-commerce is really, really the global phenomenon for online, and therefore should be harnessed by small mid-cap companies to reach out to new markets. A lot of the times when we're talking about e-commerce, we're really focused on B2C, that's what people talk about. But B2B e-commerce is obviously much larger, much more established, and we tend to forget this. We've all been doing purchase orders. That's a type of e-commerce, really. We've all been sending up requests for quotes. They're increasingly structured around websites, and we'll talk about that. But I did want to just highlight right at the top that B2B e-commerce is roughly 3 times the size of B2C e-commerce. It's very hard to get precise numbers, hence these are a bit old. They're 2020, but they're consistent at least. So I've left them in there. You know, and it's so important. You know, that 3/4 of B2B buyers look online and purchase online. And this is something we're going to emphasize a few times during the webinar, is how much companies are looking at other companies on the B2B side, as well as just the B2C, but the B2B side, for a request a quote, which they will want to have and look at before reaching out and having a salesman call them. So I guess we wanted to leave you with a first sort of overview picture of some of the big e-commerce and online tools. And just that sort of major takeaway for us, which is that your websites, your online marketing, all of your online assets have to be working hard for you, should be working hard for you. And investing in them means growing your business. If you can invest in them and get them really working hard for you, you will find that you are reaching out and exploring new markets, reaching into new markets for that. So let's now focus a little bit about e-commerce. And I guess before I do that, I wanted to ask all of you in the audience whether you're already, are you already, you know, looking at, are you looking at e-commerce already, only for the US? Are you globally? Are you already on the international markets, a few international markets? Let me give you a little bit of feedback. First of all, thank you very much for your quick response. The vast majority of you have clicked the button, which I appreciate very much. And it's very evenly split. And that's really interesting. It's just changed a little bit. I would say most of you are already in the USA. And some of you are looking at USA and a few international markets. A very few of you are extensively US and globally. So, but well done. That's great. I'm going to close the poll now, but it's great to know that. Thank you very much. And let's move on a little bit more and then talk about e-commerce. And the first thing I wanted to point out was just why we think you should love e-commerce. For us, all online assets, your websites and your online marketing are all about growing your top line, whether that's about lead generation or brand awareness or direct e-commerce, all about the top line. That's where online assets are focused and how they're built. Now, e-commerce is in a sense, the natural culmination of that. It's the expression of that, as it were. And it is easy if you have well-designed and well-done online assets, like your good websites on marketing. It's easy then to go and the natural progression into some kind of e-commerce functionality. And e-commerce is something that sales and marketing teams usually just love. It's all about data and visible instant returns, quantifiable return on investments. It is, as I've said, by its very nature, international, and it's increasingly demanded by both B2C and B2B. Let me unpack a little bit of that. While if you're in the USA, the majority of the searches you're going to get will be US companies. When you go onto your Google.com, you type in something, you will get something else. But if a Canadian company or a British company is targeting the US on e-commerce platforms, you will get them too. They can reach into you. They can show you their wares by targeting those companies. And if a good company is like that, then they say, well, expand that way. It's an easy sell. For example, with USMCA now, it's a lot easier to sell Canada and Mexico into the United States. And this cross-border e-commerce is something that we're seeing growing at double-digit figures across the world and has been for quite a few years. It's now really representing 30 to 40% of all e-commerce transactions. It is increasingly easy, and buyers trust enough a good website from a German company to buy into from the US or a US company to buy into Germany. So a German consumer will buy a US company, a US product, as long as there's enough confidence on that buyer's journey. And that confidence, that trust is built through the online asset. So your websites and your online marketing have to have enough inbuilt trust, as it were. And we'll get on to that. And then when we talk about this increasing demand from both B2C and B2B, again, that big trend that we're seeing globally, buyers increasingly want to check you out, check out your assets, check out your products, perhaps put something together, get a quote before they're contacted by anyone from sales. Like everything on the web, as I said, it's all top-line oriented, it's also customer-centric. So your e-commerce website always has to be customer-centric. So if you're targeting the Canadian market, make sure it's Canadian dollars, make sure it's in metric, make sure it's all the things that a Canadian buyer would expect and be comfortable with, that earns the trust and the reliability that they actually progress through the various stages to the cart and the conversion. So it takes a lot for someone to actually click that yes, pay now, and here are my details. And those details come through only because you trust the brand enough. And the brand is through the website. So your brand is displayed on your website. Your website is the ambassador of your brand, as is your online marketing. And that's what's going to move the client along, the prospective buyer along through the buyer's journey. So, as I said, for e-commerce, a website that is truly relevant for your local buyer. And that means quite a lot of things. I mean, language is one of them, but there's a lot of other things that go on to this. Regulatory requirements get really important. And if I go onto a website and I don't see an SSL certificate and I don't think it's secure, I'm going to go away immediately. If I'm sitting in Europe and I go onto a website and it does not have the right cookie and privacy policies, even if I click the button right away, I will leave immediately. So all of those regulatory requirements are becoming increasingly important, let alone all the other things, the domain names, the optimization for the local search engines. So your website is an incredibly important platform and becomes absolutely vital for that. For us, the online e-commerce process involves quite a lot of big steps. And we try to break them down into sort of 5 big buckets, as it were, in order to make each one, to take every single box. Because, for example, for a fairly simple e-commerce website, we have over 120 different boxes to tick before the website is seen. So let's say in order for it to look clean, simple, easy to navigate from the front end, a lot has to happen for that website to look that way. But it is a well-trodden path and a very successful path for a lot of companies. So just that emphasis again, and I guess your second takeaway, if the first takeaway is the world is online, the second takeaway, your localized website is your best sales rep. It reaches into a market that you're targeting. It's 24/7. It promotes your brand the way you want to promote it in that market. It's also, as I said, modifiable and nimble. If you've got a new product, if you've got a seasonal thing that you want to promote, if you say, oh, there's a new trend coming on, you can easily modify and switch that around on your website. And it's important to do so. It's important to act like your website. What I would say is act like your website's a real person. Bring them into each sales and marketing meeting. So we've got a new sales and marketing meeting every Tuesday or whatever it is. Bring in your website. How do we reflect that news? How do we reflect those comments that we make, those takeaways from our sales and marketing meeting? How do we reflect that on our website and on our online marketing? I also want to point out that your website, even if especially if it's an e-commerce website, is the best tool you can give your local rep. So if your local rep is in charge of the final part of that sales, you're in charge of marketing, you're in charge of your brand. In that case, you create an international website to give your local rep that they can promote your brand on. And we'll see some examples of what that looks like. So relevant to your local buyer also means a couple of, obvious things. The pricing, is it correct? The payment methods, are they correct? How are you integrating those third-party plugins? Is it seamless? Is it easy? All the compliance and regulations that go into it. So again, if you have usually we get quite a few questions about these, but if you would like some help on that, let us know. But all relevant and easy to guide for your local buyer. There's basically two ways, or how I like to think of your strategies for e-commerce. There's two things to look at. Do you do everything yourself and keep it all in-house? Or are you all out-house? Or do you have a combination of the two? So everything out-house is probably the classic, very small company who's trying this for the first time. And they basically sell on Amazon or Etsy or whatever. There's some, it's sort of rent a space, as it were. There's some real advantages to it. It's easy, takes no time. You're giving someone, a company, everything, and they just manage it for you. There are some big disadvantages. The margins, for one. Amazon takes quite a slice. Two, your brand awareness and your brand growth. Who are you really growing when you go onto Amazon? Amazon or you? So again, there's a choice to be made on that. The opposite, if I want everything in-house, do I have all the assets I need? Do I have the full tech stack? Do I have the expertise I have? Do I want to have everything in-house? How many SKUs do I have to load up? How often do I have to replenish this website and maintain it? So careful on that and make sure that you have all the right assets before you jump in. And that's the last thing I would say is make sure you make the right choices in the beginning. Which platform you use is going to really dictate a lot. If you choose Shopify, you are on one highway. If you choose, say, WooCommerce, then you're on a very different highway. So make sure that those highways work for you and try to think longer term. Will they still work for you in 2 years, in 3 years? Because swapping is quite painful. Whichever the choice you make, you still need great websites and great online marketing to make sure that your e-commerce strategy is a success on that. Some quick examples of this. This is the company that sells sandals. And they do, I wanted to point out they have they'd have a lot of business in South Africa. They have a South Africa domain name, an easy link to the shop right up at the top. And they have the graphics, search for it, for example, which resonate with the local audience. It has also an easy navigation, home, products, join us, join our community, our eco, and their values at the front, eco-friendly nomads, join our nomads, shop, and so on. So that's just the visual side of something which resonates with the local community. This is not a South African company, it's a US company targeting the South African market. Another thing we see often, and I've talked about once already, is e-commerce enabled websites that generate leads for your local agent, distributor, partner to then do the fulfilling and the after service and perhaps the installation and so on. This is the company, again, a US company, and they have quite a few European websites. The websites are there really to generate leads for their local partners, but they are very, very careful about their brand. They really want strong control over their brand because there's, for obvious reasons. And their distributors, their agents, are really good at things like installation, after sales service, fulfillment. doing the tax generation forms, but maybe not so good at marketing themselves. And so this is a company who says, well, I'm going to take responsibility over my brand and over my marketing. And the leads and fulfillment are being done by that. But it's an interesting, something we're seeing more and more of. This is an e-commerce enabled website, and the final thing comes through for the local agent to supply. E-commerce, one of the reasons why people perhaps move away from those big marketplaces like the Amazons is brand awareness. And for some companies, it really becomes life and death because without a brand awareness, your product can be easily mimicked, and perhaps there's a downward spiral on pricing. And only when you have a strong brand which has values and says this is I can make my product distinct and the quality distinct and recognized by owning and controlling my brand awareness on the internet. So that, if there's a cheap imitation coming in, a savvy shopper will know that and will find the right quality price product. In this case, an Oscarware grill topper for that. This is also a company that decided to do everything in-house because they wanted that complete brand control. And then just integrated with a 3PL for the logistics side of it. And finally, I just wanted to say, here's a we've talked a lot about sort of B2B order builders. This is a company you can pick and choose out of their long list of products, put it all up onto an order, a cart, and then request a quote. And they'll come back to you and say, here's your quote, here's delivery time, here's this, you sign it off, and you get it. This is the classic thing that we're seeing growing a lot at the moment. And our feeling as well is that it's really being driven by the buyers who are saying, I do not want to be called by a salesman at the moment. I want to go and pick what products I want. And then if I have questions, then I'll get in touch with you. But just request a quote, tell me how much that would be. And then I'll have a discussion with you. And that's something that we're seeing again and again. So this is an fully e-commerce enabled website project, but ends with request a quote button rather than a payment gateway. Before I hand over to Joelle, I just want to ask you again, if any of you are interested in learning more about websites, e-commerce, localization. If so, let us know, and we can send you a blog or some white papers or point you in the right direction with some other webinars or infographics. We've got a ton of stuff that we could just send over to you if you have an interest in let us in that. And again, thank you very much for your quick responses on that. It's much appreciated. Okay, there's a big request to have lots of information on this, which is great. We will send you things over in the email. I'm going to close that poll and pass over to Joelle to talk a little bit about marketing must-haves. Joelle.
That's great. Thank you so much, Susanna, and good morning, good afternoon again, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I just wanted to share with you some best practices and some examples, but before jumping into some of those and some scenarios, I just wanted to take a moment to highlight again, Susanna mentioned that already, but it really, really is important when thinking about really any marketing campaign, but e-commerce is just ever so important to understand the buyers and what their journey looks like. So the buyer's journey, so to speak, is I would call it, the active research process anyone goes through leading up to a purchase. Whether you're just browsing for a pizza, or whether you're making a more meaningful purchase, you all go through, in different times, but a different speed. But you all go through this this process, and this is fundamental part of any marketing strategy, because it really does kind of build a framework that you can use to understand your buyers' need and provide the information they need to reach the goal at each of the stages. So every interaction that your buyers or your persona has with your business should therefore be tailored to at what stage or where they are in this journey. So, for example, every potential buyer really at the beginning is focusing on identifying their problem, so their awareness stage, understanding what options are there for them to resolve or to alleviate their problem, so their consideration stage, comparing, what they found as top choices and, evaluating their options until they're finally ready, they've made the decision and they can purchase. So just a quick reminder here, again, we're talking about global e-commerce, international e-commerce, as well as, North America. Your buyer persona will and should differ across different markets, so to speak. And that's why you need to localize your website, but also localize the way you market to them to make sure that you're engaging with, your local buyer persona in the way they want, and also, will give you credibility and build that trust that's going to lead to a quicker journey through this process, and then a better return on investment, which at the end of the day, that's what we're all looking for in our marketing programs. Starting again and picking up, Susanna, from everything that you've shared about websites, really wanting to emphasize again how important it is to really invest time and design and have your website working really hard for you. This is key. Your website really is your best sales representative. Working really hard, 24/7, always online, has all the answers for your customers. Really think of it as your always open digital storefront. How users will find out about your brand, how your user find out about your products, your services, anything that you want to showcase to them should be on your website. And most importantly, it really needs to be organized in a way that is clear to navigate across the products, has a very simple and intuitive journey. Again, thinking about the buyer's journey, you might have, they're considering your brand, they're looking at your products, they're looking at your review when they are considering different points. So leverage everything that you have to showcase your selling points, your customer reviews, and then make that checkout process easy. And as Susanna, you were mentioning, safe. Make sure you have everything on your website to make sure that, everything feels secure and everything can go through smoothly. I've provided here 2 examples, a desktop and a mobile, and this kind of leads me to one very important point. It might seem obvious to some of you, but with so many of us, the first thing you do when you want to research something, I reach for my phone and I start typing. So we spend so much time on our phones and then maybe go to our desktop to make the final decision. But whether you are researching for a sophisticated service or again just your next takeaway, is so important to remind ourselves how much time we spend on our phones and how much time our customers will spend on our phones. Hence, really make sure that your website and your e-commerce portals are mobile enabled, and all of the payment gateways, everything does work just as securely and just as smoothly on a mobile device as it would do on your main desktop. That's key, not only to converting sales, but also to have the seamless transition from, for example, your social media strategy. So for e-commerce, whether we're looking at pure D2C, B2B, B2C, whoever you're selling to, whatever you're selling, you're always communicating with a person at the end of that message. So social media, and here I've presented a couple of examples here from Meta, so Facebook and Instagram, but this really applies to whether you want to go TikTok or whether you want to go for LinkedIn. Think about, e-commerce and every kind of buyer's journey. Social media has to be part of your omni-channel approach, but it also has to be a very structured approach. So social media really requires that care at the beginning. So don't just dive into it and start posting. Really think about your strategy. Think about how you can use your social media to build your brand awareness, share insights, and build a thought leadership, showcasing why your products, again, think about the buyer's journey, go from someone being aware and discovering your brand to wanting to find out more information to see why they should choose you, building trust leading to a purchase. But all of this will work if you are really making sure that you tailor your content to make sure that you reach the right people with the right message at the right time. So that really is key to developing a social media strategy that is going to convert. And the next example, I wanted to focus a bit more about that international, the localized social media approach. And here again is an example of Amzo, again, a company that we've used in an example before. They are looking here to support the local distributors. So even recruit and expand the distributor networks, really. If you see some of those examples are calling for new opportunities. And bringing back this example, just to show you that they have been so successful at leveraging their online marketing tools to enter new markets. And then my lights have just gone off in the office. It clearly shows that it's a little bit later here. It's okay. And also expand the network, as I was saying. So is entering a new market and then leveraging that digital presence, building that buzz, building that excitement about their products. And they're not really selling them on their website internationally just yet, but they're supporting the local distributor. They're building brand awareness. They're building demand for their products by getting people excited, users excited about their products, and building that community around car enthusiasts and motorbike enthusiasts. And their main call to action is to go and visit the local distributor shop. And that's how they do both. They grow their in-market, but they also, do it themselves. They grow their own brand presence and support the local sales. So all of these, I just wanted to show you as an example, because all of this can be achieved by having a strong, cohesive marketing approach that stems from a website, funnels through to social media, and then your preferred selling method, as Susanna mentioned, could be on your website, could be an order builder, or could be an external local partner or an external platform as well. The last point I really wanted to highlight today, and it's something that we've seen growing exponentially in 2023 and is going to continue into 2024, is all about providing the most personalized customer experience. This is key in e-commerce more than in any other kind of realm. And really here is where videos can come in and play a huge part in your social media, actually in all of your marketing strategy. Social media comes to mind because it's where we consume a lot of these videos, but also on your website, on any other marketing assets, emails. So a recent stats from Forbes reported that over 90%, just over 90% of customers actually use videos to help them through the buying journey. We all seem to have lost the attention span for long pieces of content, for instruction material, onboarding. We love videos. We consume so much video. And if you think about, again, TikTok, but also anything that you find on LinkedIn and everything in between, video is key and is growing. And actually, there are some pretty simple reasons why. First one is so easy to share. Develop some videos and give them to your sales team, give them to your marketing team, give them to your most engaged clients. Ask your customer to share videos of them using the product with you, and then spread the message. Everyone can share a video. It's so easy and is super impactful. It also has a lot better engagement than a long piece of content or just an image or an infographics. So a 30-second video will have much, much bigger impact than you spending time creating a 20-page introductory, white paper to why your product, or, all of that impact then translate into more engagement with the brand. They stick to the website a little bit more, and they will come back to look out for more videos. But also, they improve your brand visibility, provide some strong measurable return on investment, because video is trackable. You can see what works, what doesn't work, how far we're watching into the video, and then allowing you, as Susanna mentioned again earlier, bring them back into your meetings, look at your website, look at your marketing collaterals, review. You're not going to get it all right the first time around. I mean, we'd love to be able to say that we do, but it's an iterative process. Get the video out there, see how people react to it, make some small edits, change your platform, and then really, really leverage it across platforms. And this also means across audiences. A video is very easy to localized for different markets. So you could have a video with no voiceover and just some subtitles that drives the message home. But even if you had a client testimonials, for example, in English, and you wanted to use it in an international market, subtitles do just as good of a job as having to translate all of your website. Put your subtitles in, use it on social media. People are so used to, you know, consuming videos with text on it. It just works really, really well. And you really see that engagement with your social media channels, with your website, and then increase trust building. And that will streamline and really fast track that buyer's journey, basically leading to more sales, which whatever industry we're in, that's what we've built this e-commerce website and program for. So that's what we're all looking for.
Great, thank you, Joelle. We've put a lot into this webinar. There's a lot of information, a lot of things to cover all of e-commerce and marketing in one. So if you want to learn more about the marketing side, again, let us know, and we can, you know, point you in the right direction, send you some recent blogs or things. And if you can send us an email later if you want to learn more about social media marketing or SEO or A/B marketing or all the things. So we can, you know, particular platforms. You know, if you say, no, I really want to learn about just LinkedIn at the moment, you know, that's fair enough. There's a lot going on those platforms, so let us know, and we can point you in the right direction or give you any help we can. And again, thank you very much for all the votes, for getting lots in. Thank you very much for that. And I'm going to close up, Nolan. Okay, and close this. And just we have some questions in, but you know, please feel free to add more questions as we go on. I just wanted to take a moment, talk about some of the latest trends. And there's pretty well a full webinar on each one of these big issues. Joelle just touched on videos, for example. And they're also quite interrelated. You know, videos is quite linked to both social selling and this whole notion of community. But here are some of the top trends that we are seeing in 2023 and we think will accelerate in 2024. AI, obviously. You know, we use AI, but in fact, marketing has been using AI for quite a while. But we are really delighted with some of the advances going on with AI. It's allowing us to streamline things and to make things more efficient. We are very wary of where AI could go, however, and use it very cautiously. We have a lot of assets on AI and have done some webinars and things on that as well. But one of the ones I wanted to, there's two really that I wanted to highlight especially besides that. One is this idea of personalization and community, and they go hand in hand in my view. And Joelle touched on them briefly, but for e-commerce, it's incredibly important that the person feels, that the buyer feels that this is this personalized journey. And with that comes this notion of community, as I said. So this community build is really important. It's important to have strategies that help you build a community around your product and like-minded. And that's why your vision, your mission, and the way you do business is secure, compliant, regulated, it's good privacy, all of that starts to get really important because it shows through in the community aspect of it. But building a longer term community is incredibly powerful for your long-term brand and obviously brand loyalty. So it's really something to be thought of, and any company can do it. The most techie engineering B2B company, yes, they have a community and can build on that community, not just B2C at all. So all of those things, those latest trends are worth thinking about as we move forward into 2024. We're seeing them very much. And then just as part of that really, and what's driving all that, something we alluded to earlier, is how sales has changed. And we're hearing this from company after company after company. You know, it really is becoming digital first. and the client says, but I'm not on that channel, I want this channel, and I want it done the way I want it. So it is very much customer-centric, searcher-centric, in all possible ways. And this is something that we're seeing, especially in international markets, as a growing trend. So just finally, before we hit some questions, your takeaways so far. I guess your takeaway we'd really like you to think about in this webinar is just to really make sure that your websites and your online assets are working hard for your business. Are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? Do they look the way you want them to look? Are they bringing in leads and conversions? Is your e-commerce functioning the way it should for the 2023 and beyond? Takeaway number 2 is that sort of drilling down on that, looking at your localized website and saying, okay, that localized website is a really important part of my business. And as Joel said, bring it right into that sales and marketing meeting, and it's the first port of call for your prospects. And with that website, what does the website do internationally? It acts as a springboard for your online marketing. It allows you to protect your brand and yes, have e-commerce, but it allows your online marketing to have a place to go to. So your e-commerce really only functions when the e-commerce website is correct and your online marketing is correct. Just a reminder for us, we are here for you. We're here for small mid-cap companies. That's what we do. We believe strongly that your website assets can help you grow, and we would love to be a part of that. We do have these online global programs for a lot of states, and some of them are eligible for various grants. And there's a ton of resources on our websites. If you go to IBT Online /resources, you'll find a lot of resources about e-commerce, about specific markets, about online marketing, lots of things. So please do that and get in touch, and we will happy to get in touch directly if you prefer, and we'll be very happy to help on that. I've left a little bit of time for questions. There's a couple that have come in. There's one. I'm going to start with you, actually, Joel, if that's okay. I need a sip of water. Joel, hi, Joel. Do I need to set up separate Facebook Meta accounts for different markets and different languages?
Very good question, and the answer is unfortunately a bit vague. It depends. So there are different scenarios. Meta have now sunsetted the option of controlling who sees your content on the page. So if you already have a fairly international following on your current Facebook or Instagram account, then it might be beneficial to continue using that and really showcasing different content. However, we talked about community, we talked about the importance of making people feel part of that community. If you really are investing in social media, then I would suggest start small in the number of accounts. So don't have 7 social media platforms across 5 different markets, but choose 1 or 2 that really resonate with your buyer persona, and do have specific profile or market pages, as Facebook calls them now, that really would allow you to focus on that language group or the specific cultural group, and then the imagery can align with your messaging and your website. So it's a little bit more work, but in the long term it will be beneficial to just build that sense of community if you don't already have like a big following that you don't want to lose on your current page.
Thank you very much. Jonathan, there's one for you, but it's quite broad. It's like, does NADEC get involved with helping e-commerce specifically? If so, how? And there's a secondary question about that. USMCA is supposed to make e-commerce easier. Is NADEC involved in anything in that? These are big questions.
So the answer to the broad questions is yes and yes. At our annual conference, we do normally talk about e-commerce and blockchain and Bitcoin and all the different things to do with the web. We'll have things on website globalization, things like that. So We will always at our annual conference in May discuss that when it comes to also webinars like this. So throughout the year, we do webinars with IBT Online on topics like this. So yes, we do a lot of content on e-commerce. We also do some mentoring. So all 1,800 DEC members across the country, if there's some that are involved in e-commerce, a lot of times they will help mentor other small companies in their e-commerce desires. And when it comes to USMCA, yes, we are involved in that, not only in the implementation of that, but also in sharing feedback. Not everything goes smoothly when you implement a free trade agreement. And I can tell you the NADEC is very aware and has been very active in notifying USTR and Department of Commerce on, some things in USMCA that maybe didn't work the way we thought they were going to work. So yes, and such a broad question. I tried to nail it down as close as I could. But yes, we are involved in all those things and in various different capacities.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a question submitted, sort of taking, well, no question, but what are the main criteria you use to decide to go with Shopify or with WooCommerce? That's a that's a big question as well. I would say just really briefly, Shopify is an all-in-one. So you buy into their themes, their plugins, they're called apps. So you open the drawer, you put your company in there, and it comes out in e-commerce. That's the good side. The bad side is it's quite rigid. If you want to have a different design that's not in one of their themes, no, it doesn't work. If you want to have a different plugin which is not on one of their apps or plugins, doesn't work. So there are limitations, and if you're looking to grow your business over time, you need to be very aware of the restrictions that Shopify does impose. Because when you first look at it, you say, whoa, this is a magic sort of wand. You just plug in and Shopify will do it all. And especially internationally, Shopify, as a good Canadian company, thinks outside its borders right away and adds in really good apps for translating currency and things like that. But some of the aspects of Shopify are quite limited. WooCommerce works very well. It is the largest in the world in terms of market share, about 45% market share. Works very well with WordPress. It needs technical help to install it, but you have control, and it's much more flexible. It's also really good for filters. If you have a lot of SKUs and you want to have different filter systems about things, then WooCommerce is probably going to be better for you than a Shopify. One last question for you, Joelle, about videos. Do I put them on YouTube or do I put them on my website?
Very good question, and the answer is both.
Okay.
I would always recommend YouTube is a fantastic place to host your videos because it is obviously being part of the Google family. In a lot of global markets, Google is still the leading market share for search engines. So having your videos on YouTube, having a very strong description with a link redirecting to your website will give you opportunities for that video to actually take up space in the search engine result page, rank organically, and then you can embed that onto your website, which is lighter, is easier to load, it doesn't slow down your website, and then you have the benefits of both. So I'd say if you have a video, absolutely put it on YouTube, spend some time optimizing your description, but then also leverage it on your website because you've worked so hard to get people onto your website. Really do showcase all of your media. Right.
There's also a question about shipment gateways. Which is better, UPS or FedEx? Shipment gateway. I can't really say which is better, DHL, FedEx, but what I can say is that the shipment gateway are really good plugins that a lot of e-commerce sites use, and all of the big 3PLs, all of the big shipment companies like a FedEx or a DHL, a UPS, they all have really good integrations with an e-commerce enabled site. The problem is that they don't all speak to each other, so you have to have lots of different ones for your website, which is a real pain. It makes your website a bit heavy, but hey, we have some solutions for that, but it's a bit technical. The other thing to note about them is that it's increasingly important to give your clients a choice. A lot of people abandon the cart when they can't have, I only use FedEx, or I have my own FedEx account, and how do I do that? So the shipment gateway choices are really important. So it's a bit of a pain that there isn't one plugin to serve them all. You've got to have lots of different choices on your website, but it's still necessary to give the choice, because that is a major motivation for abandoning cart. It is bang on 1 hour. There's a few more questions, and I wanted to call out especially to Gloria. She's put in a couple of questions, and we'll reach back to you. Thank you very much. But I wanted to say a big thank you to Jonathan for being here and spending his time with us. We appreciate it enormously. We know you're running a company and NADEC and this. We know your time is very precious, so we're very, very grateful for that. Also, a major thank you from me to Joelle for being available and helping me so much on these, and then especially a big thank you to all of you who have attended and taken the time out of your day. We appreciate that very much, and thank you for your questions, your involvement, your participation. We hope to see you all online, and we hope to see you all in person. That would be lovely as well. And let us know if there's anything we can do to help you on your e-commerce journeys. Thank you all very much. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.